Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Journey Running Podcast. I'm your host, ultrarunner, coach, and registered dietitian, Stefan Schuster. The last few weeks since I recorded episode 18, training and preparing for the Western States 100, have really been hectic, to say the least. I recorded that episode 2 weeks about before Western States to get my thoughts down before the race, and also just to explain how I've been training to anyone who might be interested in using that information for their own training for Western States or other races in the future. I still do have to record a post-race episode for Western States, which went really well. Hint, I went sub 24, so very stoked about that. So that will likely be the next episode after this one. The reason I haven't recorded that episode yet, though, is because the week after Western States, I ended up going to the Badwater 135 miler to crew and pace Danny Manimbo, who's this episode is for today. We will get to that shortly. Then the week after Badwater, I went to the High Lonesome 100 to volunteer at an aid station that was at 12,000 feet at Monarch Ski Resort overnight. That was a really cool experience as well. But, going 3 weekends in a row with at least one night without sleep. So running Western States, the next week going to Badwater, which is a 2-day event because the race starts at 8 p.m. And then going to High Lonesome and volunteering overnight. Just a lot of sleep deprivation. So a little bit behind on content. I still have a ton of video footage from Western States and from Badwater I'm trying to make a YouTube video out of. It has been a wild few weeks, to say the least. Oh, and now I'm training for the Leadville 100 in 3 weeks, and I'm moving apartments next week. So trying my best to get content out as quickly as possible. Anyways, I do realize that since the last episode was on Western States preparation, it would make a lot of sense to put my post-race recap after that. That's not always how life works out. Last week, Danny Manimbo, he hit me up to record a Badwater 135 recap episode while his memory was still fresh, and I didn't want to pass up that opportunity because Danny is a busy guy, as you'll hear in this episode. So I'm really happy that we got this recorded. Before we do get started and get into that interview, I want to remind people that if you do enjoy the Journey Running podcast, which does take a lot of time and energy for myself to produce solo, please do take the time to like, rate, and subscribe to the show. It goes a really long way for me and for my coaching business, Journey Running, where the goal is to help athletes run farther, fuel smarter, and develop character through personalized running and nutrition coaching. If you or someone you know is interested in those services, you can contact me at journeyruncoaching.com, where you can submit a form on my website, or you can email me directly at journeyrunningsllc@gmail.com. Athletes have been doing great lately. One just ran his first rim to rim across the Grand Canyon. Side note, that was before the North Rim fires began and have been unfortunately causing devastating damage over there. But another athlete just finished his first 100K at the Never Summer 100K. Technically, he finished today, I guess, since he finished at like 3 in the morning. So shout out to him as well. Good things are happening over here. So make sure to give us a follow on all of your favorite social media platforms. All right, that's a lot of cliff notes for today, more than usual. Today's episode will be episode 19, and boy, is it going to be a great one. We have Danny Manimbo on the show, who recaps his recent Badwater 135, which is otherwise known as the world's toughest foot race. He, in this episode, details his entire race, how he got into ultra running, and many of his philosophies on life, leadership, and more. I'll let him do most of the talking from here on out. So without further ado, let's welcome to the show, Danny Manimbo. Hey everyone, Stefan Schuster here with Danny Manimbo, Badwater 135 finisher. Super pumped for today's episode. Badwater was about 10 days ago, and it was a hell of an experience. I was out there crewing him, doing some pacing, and Danny, he really crushed it. There were a lot of lows, a lot of highs. It was probably everything that you could expect from that race and more. But Danny, I'd like to let you introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, any, unique facts about yourself. Obviously, we're going to talk about Badwater 135 on this episode, but I'm going to hand the floor over to you.
Yeah, appreciate it, Stefan. Excited to rehash some pretty epic race from last week. That's one I'll definitely cherish forever. I mean, the goods and the bads, which I'm sure we'll get into. But yeah, Danny Manimbo. I live out here in Colorado with you, Broomfield, Colorado. I know we met a lot from the HPRS race community. Badwater was my 7th 100-mile race, or a race of 100 miles or more, I should say. Pretty new to the sport since started in 2021. So still kind of navigating my way around, and doesn't actually seem real that I got invited to and finished Badwater, but in such a short length of time. But sure, it's all stuff that we can jump into.
Yeah, you're being so humble. I was looking at your ultra sign up the other day, and
Oh,
you
boy.
are a finisher of some really impressive 100-milers in the country. Danny has finished the Leadville 100-miler twice, actually. You have finished the Hurt 100. You've run the Keys 100 and the 50-miler, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right. Yeah, I did Keys. They're 50 this year.
Yeah, and man, you've done a lot of really just incredible events. How did you get into the sport originally? And you said it was 2021?
Yeah, you know what? So I did some endurance. I kind of dabbled into endurance. I used to live in South Florida, went to University of Miami, and I had started, kind of the way anyone starts, I suppose, just running, did half marathon, built my way up to a marathon, did a couple of shorter triathlons, like up to an Olympic distance. And then I stopped in 2011. I ran a marathon and I thought like that was the top of the mountain. I'm good. I didn't run again until 2020. So there was like a 9-year layoff there where, I worked for a consulting firm, kind of got into a lot of the travel and not so healthy lifestyles that come with life on the road and things like that, and skipping workouts and not being as disciplined as I could be with health and fitness. And then 2020 rolls around, right? I was traveling probably 90% of the time for work, weighed probably 40 pounds more than I do today. I was, 2020. So I was about, 32 years old, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, kind of all the things. And we just had twins, boy and a girl we met. But so I have 1-year-old kids, and just had that opportunity when 2020 came around. It was just that pause button on all things travel, et cetera. Everyone was home. I was just like, you know what, I got to be better. And that's where I stumbled upon David Goggins and his story, his book. And I know he's done it for a lot of people, and I'm definitely one of them. And so kind of just March of 2020 started running. It absolutely sucked. Like, I don't think I could go 1 mile outside without stopping and, having all types of issues. But I was determined. I was like, man, I really want to run half a marathon. I think that'd be cool if I could get back to like running 10 miles, 13 miles again. And when you first start running, like you just go through that period of suck, and you just got to kind of break through that of like, I'm like, I don't think I can ever run 10 miles again. And then it's just like, but I'm one of those people that, kind of headstrong, as you probably witnessed last week, and you just slowly build on it. Ended up running 6 marathons in 2020, starting in July. And I think I like knocked one out each month for the rest of the year. And I was doing the different state thing. I thought I wanted to run 50 marathons in 50 states. So did that. And then in 2021, that's probably where I got exposed to first ultra. I signed up. I forgot exactly what kind of triggered it. Maybe again, it was the Goggins thing and wanting to do something more than a marathon. So I'm like, I kind of want to get off the roads and onto some of the trails that we have out here in Colorado. Went out to Fruta, ran the Desert Rats 50K, kicked my butt. I think I cramped at mile 12 and walked the majority of the rest of the 18 miles. And then got it. That's where the next race was with John, the South Park Heavy Half, which I know isn't around anymore. And then something clicked. Like, I'm signed up for this Matahay. I was signed up for their marathon, right? Because I was like, oh, I'm going to go knock out a marathon in North Dakota in the Badlands. Cool. And then something clicked to where, I'd done a couple of these trail races. I knew they had other distances, and I was gaining a little bit of confidence. I'm like, oh, I can do some of this. I think I can do more, maybe 50K, 50 mile. I was like, well, maybe I can do something good about all this. And, my wife and I had gone through 5 years of infertility treatments. I mentioned we have the twins, so they were obviously the successful output of that. But, I was like, well, maybe I can raise money and raise awareness, reduce some of the stigmas associated with, a lot of the people that struggle with infertility issues. it's time consuming, it's stressful, it's super expensive. Most insurances don't cover a lot of those treatments. So it's just a tough thing, and not a lot of people talk about it. So I was like, you know what if I did a fundraiser to where I think we did $100 a mile was the thing, to where if I raise $5,000, I'll run the 50-mile version of the Matahe trail race. And I was like, if we get 7,500, there's a 75-mile. If we raise 10 grand, I'll run this 100-mile. And we start raising so much money out the gates. And I'm like, shit, I'm on the hook to run this full thing. And we got to 10,000 pretty quick. And I'm like, all right, I'm doing a 100-mile race, coming from running the 28-mile South Park Marathon, right? So I'm like, I got to get my act together. And so I ran the last call 50, which was in July. This is all basically in June and July of 2021. Ran that one just to see. I was like, I got to at least be able to run 50 miles to have a shot at this thing. And which was good, because that race starts at midnight, and it gave me I'd never run at night before. So it's just, total amateur out there. I didn't know anything about nutrition, or, I was like, can I just have this like little clip-on lamp, that I put on? It's just shaking everywhere when I'm running. Didn't have a headlamp. But yeah, got through that, and, went out to Matahe, ran the 100-miler. It's awesome course, by the way. Shout out to Nick, who's their race director, puts on a good course. Very exposed, not quite as intense as Badwater, but you're exposed to bad lands, right? You're exposed to all the elements basically the whole time. There's not a lot of shade and cover, but that was 107 miles. I think it was 106. I took a wrong turn. I ended up getting a bonus mile, but 21 people showed up to that race because it was kind of COVID-y still. And I don't think they draw the crowds certainly that some of the big ones that we have out here do. 7 people finished. I came in second place, which was kind of crazy. But that was like the start. Now, and then after that, man, just like crossing the finish line, 107 miles in the Badlands. I'm like, I've been doing ultra for 3 months. Like, what, how did that happen? You just have this like superhuman feel of like, dude, what else can I do in this sport? So it's kind of how it started.
Oh my gosh, there is like a million and one things as you were talking there that I wanted to comment on. First of all, I didn't realize that the fight against infertility, that fundraiser, I didn't realize that was the reason you signed up for Matahe as your first 100. Even the other day when I was looking through your ultra sign up, I was like, man, he went from like that 50K at South Park, or the marathon, all the way up to the 100 really, really quickly. And I know you also did that fundraiser for Badwater. Has that been the same fundraiser that you just have that is that a GoFundMe that's just been open for all these years, and you give it to the charity sporadically, or how does that work? And where can people find it if they want to donate to it?
I'll send you the link after this. If you have show notes, you can plug it in there. But it's definitely still open. It was a separate campaign I did in 2021, and we launched a new one for this year, just kind of with the new theme of Badwater. And my thing with that is, basically going through infertility for 5 years was hell, right? It was personal hell, and Badwater is basically crossing through hell. And my thing was like, if you keep moving forward, you can resolve your journey and get through hell, or what seems like hell. And there is a finish line. And, the organizations out there to help a lot of the couples struggling with that and starting their own families, et cetera, that, my wife and I kind of wish we had, access and knowledge of when we were doing it. So it's, that was kind of the refreshed theme of it for 2025. We had a more successful campaign in 2021, because I think I surprised a lot of people when I said that. They're like, we didn't even know you ran. Now you're about to go run 106 miles to the Badlands. So I think it was more that surprise tactic, and we gamified it with, how much we were raising versus, how long I'd run. So I think some people wanted to just see me suffer a little bit more out there, but still did well with the Badwater charity, and it's something, kind of happy to promote. Yeah,
man, there was so much in your story that I wanted to comment on, and that's running through my mind right now. A few of the first things that jumped out at me was your story reminds me a lot of a mix of if you've read like Ultramarathon Man, Dean Karnazes, who
Yep, just read
he's a
it.
runner, and then he goes into the corporate world. He kind of loses his motivation and why and purpose in life, and then he rediscovers running. Another
Yeah.
one that jumps out at me is, I don't know if you've ever read Training for Ultra with Rob Steger.
No.
He's
Okay.
another family guy who found himself in a bit of like an unhealthier state, and
Yeah.
then he ended up running. He got into ultras pretty quickly. Ended up doing like the Triple Crown of 200s. I guess now they have more 200s, so it's like the
Yeah. Yeah.
quadruple. And I don't even know. There now people are running like 10 200s a year, but
Crazy.
there's just a
Yeah.
lot of overlap with like these really inspiring stories. I'm wondering how because it sounds like also having children is something
Yeah.
that motivated you to get
For sure.
into better shape. How is like being a family man, being a husband, a partner, a father,
Yeah.
how has that influenced your journey to really like become healthy? And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just interested
I mean,
also in like, where did you said Goggins, his book Can't Hurt Me is what got you
yeah.
into ultra running, but how did you even stumble on that in the first place? Did you realize like, oh, I'm going to be a father, like I need to make sure I'm around in 40,
Yeah.
50 years for like their graduations, their weddings, stuff like that? Was that it? Or yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
interested to
It's
hear
just
from
a
how that stuff has impacted you.
variety of factors and angles at which I could answer that. I mean, there's obviously the dad thing, and wanting to set the right example for your kids, because I mean they're always watching, right? I mean, even when you don't think they are, they're always taking mental notes, and all of
Mhm.
these things that they see me do. Whether or not they fully get it today, it's just like they'll just notice, like, hey, that's just what dad does. Like every morning when we wake up, dad's just coming back from his run, et cetera. Dad's gonna make a smoothie when when he's done, and that's got fruits and vegetables in it. So it's like they just kind of see the day-to-day habits of like what a dad is, and kind of what it means to be strong and fit. And then the other thing about it is, like, I have a leadership role at the CPA firm I work at. I'm a partner there. I've been there for 12 years, and there's this old, basically, you want to call it stereotype or whatever, that if you're a partner at a CPA firm, you probably are married to your work, and you're not healthy, probably don't have a great relationship with your family, or you know what I mean. So it's like
Mhm.
I've wanted to kind of come through and challenge that norm, and basically say, so I talk about, like, I posted about Badwater on LinkedIn. It's probably not a very, not that many people talk about ultramarathon on LinkedIn, but like I linked it back to basically, here's how the lessons I've learned from 100 milers have impacted my leadership at work, how I show up for my family. And like, I want my team to know, it's like, you have to be very intentional about it, but like, you can still, ascend to the highest ranks of the firm and be healthy. Because I talk about my kids all the time with them, like, be present for your kids, have obviously a good relationship with your spouse or your partner, and still have passions outside of work, but work damn hard. Like, it was hard for me to get promoted to principal. I think I was the youngest one at my firm to ever get promoted. So like, there's a lot of hard work there. It's not like I take like 4-hour run breaks in the middle of the day. But
Yeah.
so it's like all these things of like, I've got people who look up to me at work, and I've got, 2 kids, and it's just like, I had to be better, man. I was, 32 years old, 210 pounds, which isn't obese, but like I had high blood pressure, high cholesterol. I
Mhm.
was covered from just the stress of work, just not being very healthy from like a diet standpoint, and the stress of everything that we went through for years with the infertility. Dude, I was covered in eczema from like stress, and so I was like, dude, I need to change my diet. So like, this was actually pre-COVID. I took one of those blood tests that does food sensitivities, and that's where like I started this whole plant-based thing. And by
Mhm.
no means am I one of those vegans who says everyone needs to be a vegan, but um, for me it was dairy and eggs, and like I had to cut that out of my diet. And like then I realized, I'm like, wow, like the eczema went away. I lost like 10 pounds of inflammation. Not to say those foods are unhealthy, but like a lot, it's some foods are just don't work well for some people. And like I
Mhm.
started to realize at that point, like, my choices, I'm in control of like my health. Like, I
Mhm.
probably saw every dermatologist in Colorado for a while. They're like, you're always going to need to be on steroids and all these drugs. I'm like, that doesn't seem right. Like, this has to be linked to environmental factors or something I'm putting in my body. And like, I started to
Mhm.
realize that, like, okay, you gotta stop feeling bad for yourself for, claiming you don't have time to work out, or claiming that, oh, woe is me with inflammatory issue I had on my skin. Like, you can actually change a lot of this. You just have to be willing to do the work. And tying this into Goggins, and like, that's what I appreciate about his message. A lot of people don't like him, but whether it's the language or just the fact he never wears shirts, but like, it's like his ultimate message is that like, we can all be better, but it's up to you to do better.
It's all about accountability.
Exactly.
I'm a big fan. I think that I probably like 90% of what he has to say. I think
I'm with you.
It's just like, take what he has, something for everyone. And what people just focus on, I think, with someone as intense as him, is just what they don't like. And my opinion is like, take the 90% that is actually useful to you. And that, like, what's useful to you might be different for me and someone else. And like, leave the rest at the door. Like, we're all a combination of the books we read, the people we surround ourselves with, like our family, our friends, our pets, whatever. Like, we just, and that's what's beautiful about everybody. We're all just a combination of different
100%.
sources in a way. I find your story also interesting because, the doctor thing, when I was in high school, I had like a knee injury, and they told me like 30 to 40 miles of running a week is what's doing it. And like, that's unhealthy.
Arbitrary.
They wanted to do like a arthroscopic surgery. I read Born to Run, and kind of like you with the eczema thing, I was like, no, there's got to be like a different way. I believe that we were born to run, and that this is healthy. And I don't know, a weird Sports Authority brace took my pain away, and then I weaned myself off the brace, and here I am 15 years later with no knee issues. Knock on wood. But I find that interesting. I also find it interesting that one of the big questions I have for you is, you have so much on your plate now. It sounds like the stuff you were going through a few years back was probably more stressful. But I mean, you are a leader at your job. You're a husband. You have 2 kids. And you're training for ultras. That's a lot on your plate, and not just ultras. You're training for some of the hardest races in the world, like Badwater. This is less stressful compared to what you went through. And does that make it easier, or what message do you have for other people who hear this and say, I just don't have the time to do all that?
Of course. Yeah. It's funny. I have, people who'll tell me that at work, and you'd be like, you realize that like I'm in a position of authority over you. I have more responsibility than you, and you don't even have kids. And so it's like, I like what I know we talked about Nick Bear and BPN at Badwater, and during those long drives and pacing stretches that we have. But like, he said something that, if it matters to you, you'll make the time, is like one of his sayings. And I really like that because, like you have to be intentional about your time, is what I tell everybody. It's a struggle to, would it be much easier, if I had a 9 to 5 and no kids? Like, I could probably train a lot more, but like, I wouldn't have it any other way. Like, I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, 7 days a week. I train from like 4 to 6:30 is my window. Because that's before the kids wake up. I like to be back when they're there, make the breakfast, do whatever, and get ready for work. But so I mean, it's just very intentional. I'm like, oh, how you wake up at 3 o'clock? It's like, well, dude, that's like my option, because I can't go run, at 5 o'clock at night. And that's where I can't go to a lot of these run clubs and things I'd love to do, but like, that's dinner time. And like, so it's like, everybody's got to kind of find a schedule that works for them. Obviously it requires a lot of discipline and consistency there, but like, I don't know, I wouldn't have it any other way. We were joking before about what time I normally go to sleep. Like, usually it's no later than 9 p.m., but like, I don't even think I could stay up till 9:30 if I tried. Like, I'm so tired at that point, because like, once the kids go down, like, but I love that. Like, at the end of the day, I just feel like I've hit my potential. Like, you know what I mean? I've done what I need to do physically for myself. I've showed up for work. I'm always obviously in a better mood when I can get a morning workout in, and, make that time for the kids and the family. And it's exhausting. Like, I know some of these, I was telling Brittany, like, when I was doing some of those long runs and prep for kind of the peak training for Badwater, I was running 50Ks on Saturday and Sunday, just around my neighborhood, of course. Like, but like 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm like, I'm so tired right now. You got to remind me that like, I can't do these all the time. But it's, I don't know, man. It's I just feel like I have such and a passion for what I do every day that it probably seemed like if I were to write down what I do every day and somebody were to look at all that, I'd be like, dude, that's a lot. But like for me, it's just like what I wouldn't want to just working, like that wouldn't fill my cup. Like I need something outside of the work to exercise these passions and these things that, I've kind of got burning inside me. So, I mean, I love
Well,
it.
they say diamonds are made under pressure.
Yeah, there you go.
I do want to get into Badwater here. I have a lot of Badwater questions
Let's go.
for today. But before we do that, I did want to go back to one other thing that you were talking about with work. It sounds like leadership is a topic and a concept that you think about pretty often, and it seems like a pretty large theme in your life. I'm wondering how do you define leadership? What do you think are the traits that really make people into a good leader? And if somebody wants to be a leader, how can they go about becoming one?
I love it. A great resource for leadership. I'm a big fan of Jocko Willink. He has actually a leadership consulting program that he's built when he transitioned out of the military, and I think it's called Echelon Front. But I follow them and like a lot of their tactics. But like what makes a great leader? I think it's a lot of people struggle with this, and they think that when they get into leadership positions, it's all about, hey, I'm the authority, listen to me. With me, I take a very different approach. Like I probably have 40 plus people at my company who report to me. So it's a lot of people. And I really do enjoy to get to know each of them. I find it very hard to lead somebody if you don't know them personally, if you don't take the time to learn about them, what motivates them, what they're passionate about outside of work, what kind of makes them tick, et cetera. Because how can I, appropriately influence that person in a positive manner if I don't know any of that? So, of the 40 plus people, like I have a different, basically leadership technique with all of them, really. Because I know some people, hey, need more of a push here. Some people need more words of affirmation to know what they're doing well. And others, it's, I can kind of, they're good. And then like, I can kind of intervene every now and again, but they don't really need that push and that motivation. So I think it starts there, really learning, knowing your team. That shows that you care about them. Listen to them, show that you're respectful of like what they're passionate about too. And you kind of have to, it's kind of like parenting in a way. I mean, you evolve from there. Like I have very different parenting strategies with both our kids. They're very different humans. So setting the right example, I mean, I think that's big for me, and being authentic with them. Like I could very easily not talk about any of this stuff that I have going on outside of work and just kind of be a robot and just be like, hey, we do the projects and serve the clients and do all this. But like, I want to tie it into like, hey, this is why, somebody once asked me, he's like, why do you work so hard and like, wake up so early and do all this stuff? And it's like, what's the alternative? Like, what are you trying to get out of life? Right. Because I'm trying to meet my potential, which I define as, a lot of things that we've already talked about. And, I should think that you want to do the same, but it has to be something that you're passionate about. So it's like, I really enjoy that, trying to help people find, because a lot of people just get jobs and they're just jobs, right? And they're doing it and they're not really into it. And like, so I try to obviously weed out have that conversation and have people understand that they're contributing to something, that they're seen, that they're of value. And I think when people feel valued, when people have a purpose, and they feel like they're contributing to something, as opposed to just being another number or something, maybe that happens at very large enterprise organizations or places where there isn't that strong leadership, they can kind of drift, from the job.
Yeah, that's super interesting. You made me flash back to my time in college when I was on a lower level than what you're doing now, but fraternity president, and you're trying to motivate a lot of other people. My definition of leadership is basically that picture where you see the guy pulling from the front of, I think you probably know what I'm talking about.
Sure do.
It's just getting it done from the front, but it's so important to make sure that you know the people around you and how to motivate them. It's funny when you said words of affirmation, I'm thinking about like love, the 5 love languages. I'm like, some people just need a hug. But like, it's really important, because if you are ever in a leadership position, you start to realize that you actually can't do anything great alone. And the only way
100%.
to really move the ball forward, if you're like
Yeah.
really trying to make a change in the world or in an organization, the only way you can do it is if everyone who's around you is also on board and inspired to do the same.
Yeah.
Um, so leadership is really just, it's like what you were talking about. It's getting the people around you
Yeah.
to buy in.
Perfect transition into Badwater, since that's crew
Yeah.
is so important there.
Oh my gosh. For those of you who don't know, Badwater is cruise mandatory there.
Yeah.
Um, it is I'll let you talk about it in a sec, but the
Yeah. Yeah.
135-mile race, the famous 100, infamous is probably a better word,
Yeah.
uh,
Exactly.
that people have heard of, where the race runs from Badwater, which is the lowest point in the Western Hemisphere at negative 285 feet,
Mhm.
up to Whitney Portal, which is like, it's like 8,000 feet or
Yeah.
something like that. And it runs across Death Valley. Temperatures they go upwards of like 120 plus degrees. I think 130 is probably, I think that's the highest
Yeah.
temp they've had.
Yeah.
It
Hmm.
is a wild race, but crew is mandatory there. There are no traditional aid stations like in other
Right.
ultra marathons. Your crew is the aid station.
Yeah.
So I'll let you talk about how was your experience at Badwater.
Gosh.
I'm
Yeah.
just gonna the ball is yours. The floor is yours.
Yeah. I guess
Badwater 135.
start from the top. Why Badwater? I mean, it was just one of those things, and I probably first heard about it through Goggins' book, and I remember just reading about it and being like, what what would motivate somebody to want to ever do that? Like that, there's no way. Like but as I started to do ultras, like I actually kind of my races that I did that you named earlier were all starting with the Keys 100. We're all kind of on the Badwater list because I was like, what if I could do this one day? Let me start just hacking away at like the preferred lists or the preferred races on their list on their website. First of all, you need to do a minimum of 400-mile races. I know they recently updated their qualification criteria to have a couple additional things like 24-hour races, et cetera, that weren't previously qualifiers. And I think you needed to have been running ultras for 4 years. But again, their website will have the most recent. But so I had done Keys 100, which was on their list because that's a hot race, right? Of course, running from Key Largo to Key West. And then Leadville was on there. Hurt 100 was on there. So I applied in 2024 last year to get in, didn't get in. I had like the minimum criteria. I think I had 5. It was right after I'd finished Hurt in January. That was when their application deadline was. So I thought I might be able to get in. I wasn't ready for that race last year. One could argue if I was ready for it this year too. But so, and then, I got into it this year, and very unique, like small race field. It's international. So they invite 100 runners, they hand select. It's not a traditional lottery like a Leadville or something like that where anybody could get selected who applies. You do this like college essay type application process where they ask you all types of interesting questions like, describe the meaning of life in 25 words or less, or what does it mean to be a good sportsman, that type of thing. Why Badwater, of course. So, just surreal to have gotten in. They had 24 countries represented at this thing. So not only the fact that the race is in Death Valley, one of the most intimidating atmospheres, as we've both realized, like out there probably from a racing perspective, but you're there with 99 other pretty badass runners, right? And then you're kind of, at least for me, I kind of had this imposter syndrome when we got there. I'm like, how am I here? Like, I'm the only one from Colorado here, representing the U.S. Like, it's wild to see some of the. I mean, Harvey Lewis is right there, and then these other, Pete Kostelik was there, and just like some of these just amazing runners. And you're like, how am I like one of these, somebody that's going to be lining up with these folks? But anyway, yeah, it's logistically very tough. A lot of strategy involved. Totally self-supported. So you need to have a pretty good idea of how much water you need, a cooling strategy with getting ice and the right food. And we had to get a minivan, and we drove from Vegas, and there's a lot of just things you need to consider.
We
And
don't forget the checked luggage that we checked
oh my gosh.
three coolers on the way
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. So there's not a lot of hotels out there. So I'm like, dude, where do I even stay? So to kind of give you a lay of the land, you've got Badwater is mile 0. Of course, that's starting line. And then you finish in Whitney Portal, which is mile 135. backtrack a half a marathon to mile 122 is Lone Pine. That's like their race HQ. So like that's where you have the pre-runner or the pre-race meeting. That's where the pizza party is after the race. So they suggest everybody to stay there, but you're 120 miles away from the start line. So there's a hotel at mile 40 at Stovepipe Wells, and then there's another group of hotels at Furnace Creek at mile 17, but like really nowhere in between there. So we had to kind of figure out, and what we ended up doing was we got a hotel for the length of the stay at Lone Pine, just so we could clear out the van a little bit from like just luggage that we didn't need for the actual race, which was a good play. One thing I might have done a little differently is we basically, on Monday, the race started at 8 p.m. We drove the whole course basically from mile 122 to the start line, which kind of gets you out of your rhythm a little bit. I might have stayed the night before in like Stovepipe Wells too, just to be settled a little closer to the start line and not have to do that long drive the day of the race. I mean, you're probably not resting too much Monday anyways, just because of the stress of the race. But
it's so hard though. It's so hard though, because you have to be at that pre-race meeting the day before in Lone Pine. That's right. So like, and it doesn't matter. I'm going to back up for just a second. So for people listening, the race, we said it already, but it goes from Badwater to Whitney Portal. There are 3 major climbs along the route at mile 50, 70, and 120. And no matter where you come from, though, if you fly into Vegas, if you come from like the LA or Fresno side, it doesn't really matter which side you come from. You have to drive that whole course basically before the race, because you have to go to the pre-race meeting in Lone Pine. And like, as we're driving it the first time we drove it, we're driving from Vegas to, we went to the starting line because we all wanted to see it. And then we drove like the whole course basically, except for the Whitney Portal section, and you're driving it. And gosh, 100 miles, like, I love hundreds, but when you're driving that Badwater course for the first time, it makes you ask yourself, like, I think it really puts into context, like, wow, I like run this far for fun, like all the time. That was intimidating, even as a crew member.
It definitely got in my head. I will tell you that much. Like, between being on kind of the taper crazies of just like, being a little bit more anxious than normal, being out of my routine, traveling. And then, we drove the whole course. That's where I was really like, oh, okay, shit, this is real. This is a pretty intense environment. You're going up and down mountains. It's not just flat, that you're getting into that Panamint Valley is super intense. That's where you basically just are in an actual oven. That's the hottest part of the race. And like, that's right in between 2 big climbs. And you start to kind of visualize all that and like, think about it, overthink it, which I definitely did. But yeah, so I guess just as far as how that race went. So the tough thing was, it starts at 8 o'clock. It used to start in the morning, I think years ago. And now they start at 8 o'clock at night. So tried to stay off my feet as much as I could. Like I said, Monday, get to the starting point of the race.
What'd you tell yourself?
What'd
you tell yourself after driving like on Monday? Like,
or sorry, here's the thing. We got to Stovepipe Wells at mile 40, right? Because that's where we were leaving. Here's another part where the strategy kind of comes into play. We left 2 crew members there, Anastasia as a pacer and MJ, my nephew, who was helping out with crewing. I wanted them fresh because like the race starts at 8 p.m. I didn't want everybody up for, what we didn't anticipate was going to be a really long 40 plus hours, but like I didn't want everybody up for 2 nights. So the idea was I would run those first 40 miles and however long it took me, but basically until, kind of sunrise the next day. Picked up Anastasia, who was fresh. She'd rested all night. And then like, I could have a, fresh person for that. And you guys could have some reinforcements on crew. And we get to Stovepipe Wells at probably, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And it was like 115, 120. It was like a sandstorm going on. So I was like, dude, so that was just kind of another thing. Like, I felt like a pretty mentally tough person, but like this race, I mean, it was just thing after thing where I'm just like questioning. I'm like, man, are we really, is this is going to be the way it's going to be. And so you have all day to think about it because the race starts at 8, of course. It's not like Leadville, it's 4 a.m. and like you're running before you even realize it. But so, go ahead.
I was just going to say, for context for anyone listening to this, the crew is 4 of us. It is myself, Stefan, it was Janelle, it was MJ, your nephew, and it was Anastasia. Just so when people hear names, that's like the 4 people who are crewing you, because we might just, to us, it's all fresh knowledge. But why don't you talk about like the course, how everything went? I know there's a lot of details in there, but
a lot of details. But yeah, I'll kind of hit on the main points. So yeah, the first 40 miles of the course is relatively quote unquote flat. I mean, it's runnable. So we did end up running those through stovepipe wells, and like I said, I picked up Anastasia. I think, I don't know if it was just me personally on just how taper went, or I'm sure it was some of the anxiety of the race and, the traveling, just kind of running around. But like, my legs felt super heavy. I remember to start, I probably made that comment a couple times. And so that just kind of got in my head too, of like, it's Chad Wright's got this great quote of like, your mind is kind of the rudder in whatever direction you want to go. So like if you're very positive, it's going to put you in a positive direction. If you're kind of negative, it's going to steer you towards that. Then everything's going to be negative. And it's like, oh, why is this happening to me? And like, I definitely started the race that way. And I was like very upset that happened, because I'm like, here I am, super motivated about this race all year. I'd run almost 3,000 miles in the first 6 months of the year preparing for this thing. I got a sauna, I'd done heat training. And here I am, like, feeling bad for myself after 40 miles. I'm like, what did you expect this to be? So I had to really, thankfully, Anastasia is like the most positive person in the world, super high energy. She came in and I was not feeling that. So like, it was good. I was probably pretty quiet for the first several miles that we had, but I think she understood it. She's been through tons of races, et cetera. But so we just, we kept plugging away. There's a major cutoff that you need to be at by 10 a.m. So I had 14 hours to get 50 miles, which obviously we felt good about, but timing wise, it's kind of a tough cutoff because there's 8, 9, and 10 p.m. start waves. I was in the 8 p.m., which was favorable for this, but it doesn't change regardless of your starting wave, because technically the fastest people are in the 10 p.m.
Yeah, what does Kosman say? It's like
Kosman,
the waves
he's nice about it.
The waves are fast, faster, and fastest.
That's right. Yeah, I was like, all right, I'm in the fast wave. But so we made it to that 50-mile cutoff, in plenty of time. But that's where I started to like not feel so good. I mean, the legs were one thing. Like that's to be expected that your legs are gonna be tired. I'm maybe a little heavy during a race, but started having some Achilles problems. And then just like mentally, like I said, the longest I've gone is 107 miles. So as much as I tell myself, hey, just think about the next time I can see the crew, which you guys were meeting me every probably 3 to 4 miles. I started to think, I'm like, dude, you got 85 miles left of this. Like, it's only going to get hotter. Like, just thinking about like what you shouldn't be thinking about. And like, I don't know. I just was in this kind of vortex of negativity for a bit there.
It was interesting though, because on the first night, it was Janelle and I who were crewing you. And every time you came up to us, we were meeting each other every like 3 miles, or meeting you every 3 miles about. And for reference, people like, I don't think they realize that even at an 8 o'clock start, it's 110 degrees in the basin there.
That's right.
So it's really like, it's nauseatingly hot, like most of the course. Especially like at the beginning and then again at Panamint Springs.
Yeah.
But every time we saw you, even though you would comment, you would say like, my legs are feeling heavy, but you only spent like 5 to 10 seconds every time you saw us switching water bottles, grabbing food, and then moving on. It didn't seem like you let that affect your actual performance too much. Yeah.
I mean, it's just, Mario, who's the race director at Brazil 135, like he said it best at the aid station. He's like, basically, I know you're hurting. He's like, you have one option. He's like, that's to move forward and go to the finish line. I was like, he's right. Like, what am I going to do? Like, stare at myself for another 5 minutes here at the aid station feeling bad? I'm like, no, I want to, get to the finish line. It's just continually moving forward. Like, no matter how bad you feel, like, people are like, oh, take another extra 10 to 15 minutes at the aid station. I'm like, no, we just got to go. Like, you know,
Yeah.
if I need to walk, I'll walk, but like it's every step's a little bit closer. But yeah, so
You hit a
go
low
ahead.
there pretty early on at
Yeah,
mile 50. You were talking about having 85 more miles to go. Your
yeah,
Achilles is bothering you. Mario's giving you that
yeah.
advice. We're all kind of
You
like
gave
your
me
whole
a good
crew's
pep
kind
talk
of
there
like,
too.
thank you. We're all just like your whole crew's like basically staring at you like,
Hmm.
what's he gonna do?
Yeah,
I mean, we knew like I think we all knew you were gonna eventually get up and get rolling again. But it's definitely It's more intimidating when you're at mile 50 and you have so far to go because
yeah.
it's hard to get that out of your mind than when you're at mile 50
Hmm.
of like a shorter event and you
Right.
know you can maybe slog it in if you have to.
100%.
But
Yeah, and you know, the other thing is from a team dynamic standpoint, I mean, nobody really knew each other going into the race. Like I
yeah,
had a
true.
pretty randomly selected group, not randomly, but like, you know, it was my nephew, it was Janelle from the Orange Theory gym I go to. You knew Anastasia from HPRS, but you know, I don't think like to the degree of you know, being very comfortable in the van for 40 hours with somebody, that type of relationship. So that was the other thing. I mean, but I thought you guys, at least from my perspective, I mean, did amazing. But that's just another dynamic, right? Of it's
Hmm.
a very hard race to crew because
Hmm.
I saw what MJ and I were referring to as some crew drama along the way. Of you know, you could see some tempers flaring because people are tired, you're hot, your crew never gets
Hmm.
break. You know, you got to go into your leapfrogging every 3 to 4 miles. So everybody's on and just kind of mentally, physically exhausted.
Hmm.
But yeah, so coming out of 50, we had a little bit more of a climb. I think it started. You go up to 58, the top of Town Pass there, and then you come into the oven, which is Panamint Springs, and there's like a half marathon, or maybe it's like 10 miles downhill, and then you know a 3 mile. It seemed like forever to go across that Panamint Valley, which you know you kind of come down Town Pass. You got you know it looks like a mirage because it is because it's this
Yeah.
flat road in a valley before you get to Panamint Springs, which is the aid station or you know kind of check-in point at 72. That road, it kind of plays games with your mind because if anybody's seen Badwater videos, and it's that road where the, you know it kind of looks like the top of a grill because it's got those like waves over it. Like I'm like
Hmm.
you know okay, I was like Anastasia, we'll start walking when it starts going up, and like we're running it for a while. It looks like a bowl. I think it
Hmm.
technically is, but like it ended up being much flatter than you think and much longer. I'm like I don't know when the bowl is going to start to go up, but like it's not yet. And so, I mean, we just keep running on this road. It seems like it's never going to end. And all of a sudden, we started walking at one point, and then I was like, "Oh man!" Like my eyes are starting to close. I'm like, "What is it? Like 5 o'clock in the afternoon?" I look at my watch. It's like 12:30 in the afternoon on Tuesday. I'm like, "Oh shit!" And I felt decent physically. That's where I started to kind of have a little foot blister. But like, I'm like, all right, I just need to get off my feet for a minute once we get to Panamint Springs because they've got like
Hmm.
that funny cottage there
Oh
that the
gosh.
crew could use as a shower and a couple
I
cots. It was a creepy little place, but
I never want to see that place again.
ever. So I just got in there and tried to get off my feet for a minute. But I mean, it was the middle of the afternoon. I was very tired, but like I kind of just laid down. You know, when you lay down, it's like, all right, I'm not actually going to be able to sleep here.
Hmm.
Um, let's just potentially keep moving. We burned up some time in there, and then, you know, obviously, I think we tried to brush my teeth, and that was like the first time I passed out basically from just I think it was lying down, getting up, and just the general having 70 miles on your body, and it's when I
Hmm.
kind of knew I was like, all right, you know, body's kind of starting to rebel on me a little bit, but because we were
Yeah,
drinking a ton of fluids.
that was a rough moment. You
Yeah,
know, there was this little. I asked where medical was, like asked the staff where medical was, and they like pointed us over to this little red barn-looking house thing. And we walk in, and there's like two people in what looked like volunteer shirts, and we asked them if they were medics, and they were like, they looked at each
yeah.
other like, what?
What are you talking about?
And then
Yeah.
there was like a little bedroom that was also, it didn't even have a fan in there. It was pretty dang warm for um,
It was
being
yeah.
quote unquote shade. And then you go to brush your teeth, like you're saying, and then you kind of like gently let yourself onto the ground, and you looked up at me and you just like wide eyed stared at me, and you're like, I just passed out. And I was
Yeah.
like, you just like gently let yourself onto the ground. Are you okay with the toothbrush in your mouth?
Yeah,
That was
that was where
and
probably
then
not knowing each other so well, you know. It was like
has that happened before?
it kind of no, actually, just no. I had some heat issues at the end of Keys 50, but that was unrelated. But it was funny. Like my perspective of the whole thing was, yeah, I was brushing my teeth, and then like the room started to spin around, and then like I, kind of lost control, and then I realized I was on the ground. It's like in your arms or something like that. And I'm like, and you're like, I'm like, Stefan, I just passed out. And you're like, no, you didn't pass out. You're like, you just fell down. And then you closed the door, and then because
You didn't
I
even
thought
really
you
fall.
were
You
you
like
were
very
worried.
gently let yourself
Yeah,
down. Yeah.
I thought you were worried that like a race official was going to see me on the ground and be like, "Hey, you're out of the race." Because then
No,
you
no.
were
It
you were
was
basically like, "Hey, you didn't faint. Like you just fell over." And
I
like
just
I thought
wanted you
that
to
was
have some
your way of
privacy.
saying that like, "Hey, whatever you think's going on, like maybe it did happen, but we're gonna finish this race. Like you're not dropping out." And I was like, "All right, like let's go." So um, then we finally righted the ship, got me out of there. And then I'm like, I just need to start climbing up this. His Father Crowley's next. It's
Yeah,
an
big climb.
18-mile climb from 72 to 90. And I'm like, all right, I'm not going to run that. I might as well just start hiking it. And, you know, get
Like
up there.
what got
Yeah.
you out the door there though? Because you've got a really big climb number 2 of the race at mile 72. You never fully recovered from,
Yeah.
we'll call it the bathroom incident.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to call it.
Yeah.
I closed I wanted the door closed for your own privacy, not
Okay.
that was mainly it. But like you never fully seemed to recover. Like even when you left that aid station, you were kind of
Yeah.
just like, ugh, we're just gonna keep walking forward. It's not like you
Yeah.
walked out like exuberant or feeling good. But like, what did you
Uh,
tell yourself there before we like move on with the race? I'm just interested. Like, what did you tell yourself there to
yeah.
keep going? Because it was, from a crew perspective, inspiring to see you keep going, even though things were not going to plan at all.
Panamint's, yeah, I think it's a graveyard. It's a place where a lot of people DNF. I think, talk about Born to Run. I'm pretty sure Dean DNF there his first year. I think Goggins is DNF there with Rabdo, I think. And I'd heard of others, because it's well, where it is, you're 70 miles in, it's the hottest part of the course. People question probably if they do want to do that 18-mile climb. It's kind of like in Leadville when you're like, all right, do I really want to go back up Hope Pass again and you run another 50 miles into town? But you're
Mhm.
still 65 miles away from the finish. But I was just as I just kind of got deeper and deeper into the hurt locker, I just like you just asked myself, I'm like, dude, like I'm not ready to quit. Like this day, I think we were actually doing okay time wise. First, I had a 39-hour goal. It's kind of random, but I think we were actually doing okay time wise at that point. In fact, probably
Mhm.
all the way through the top of the climb at Crowley. But I was just like, look, the day may not be going the way you want it to go, but like, we're not quitting. Like, so there's one way out. I mean, just like Mario said, I was like, dude, there's one way out of here. It's not going to be pretty. It's probably going to suck a lot more than you thought it would. But like, you talk about mindset and mental toughness all the time. Like now's basically a time to figure out if you're a poser or not. Like, are you gonna, take all these blows? And like, when I had a chance to reflect on it and, afterwards and, made a post on Instagram about it, I was like, hey, look, like it would be cool if we just went through Badwater and, I super good shape. I trained, he trained, and dude, we did it in like 32 hours. I'm like, I was top 25. Like, cool. But like that would be a fun thing to like almost like brag about, right? But like the fact that I had, passed out twice, again, passed out as we get to again at mile 100, threw up. I never thrown up in a race before, did that, like couldn't stay awake and like all these things. I'm like, I learned so much more about myself during that time than I probably would have if it was just, I don't think anybody really has this quote unquote smooth race, but like, had
Yeah.
I not encountered those issues. And I kind of felt like I needed it, like that humbling of not that I had a big head about anything, but like I just feel like it's good. Like you're never bigger than any event. Like Andy Glaze put something good out because he's talking about his DNF at Badwater, and he's like, Death
Mhm.
Valley doesn't care how much you've trained, how good a shape you're in, dude. It will humble you to the core, and
Mhm.
that's what happened. And I just at that point it sucked, but I was like, I'm gonna lean into this there's got to be a lesson that's going to come out of this.
Mm-hmm.
Janelle's like, do you want to call Brittany? And I'm like, I don't want to shake her up. Brittany's my wife. I was like, I think we just need to keep going. I just reminding myself that there's highs and lows in these races. There's got to be some type of high eventually coming. I think it's out there somewhere, but so it just keep moving forward, man. I mean, that's the sport. Like, it's not always going to go the way you want. And I always get a little disheartened when I see a lot of, folks who drop out of races because they're not having the time they want or whatever. And in fact, Costin actually made a point to say that, like, he's like, you'll probably have a goal time in mind. Prepare for that not to come to fruition. And he's like, the goal is to finish the race. And I also started thinking about, I'm like, dude, there's so many people who'd be killing to be in the position I'm in right now. This is a race of a lifetime for a lot of people. And like, for me to throw it away, because like, I've poo-pooing about my time or like how things are going. Like that's not, and like, I'm nowhere near missing any cutoffs. Like, I'm like, this, you got to suck it up. I mean, this is hard, but I mean, this is why you're here, right? I mean, to go through some of these struggles and find out about yourself, right? I'm not going to have the story of like this amazing time, but, I'm going to, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I guess the first thing to say is, I think an important take-home lesson for anyone who is an ultra runner or who wants to be a good ultra runner is the way to be good in the sport is you do need to be confident, but you need a matched, however high your confidence is, you also need that same level of like humility and humbleness and respect towards the mountains or the heat at Badwater or whatever the course is that you're running. Because if you go in confident without any humility, then, when you do get punched and you fall down for that first time, how can you really get yourself up? What do you feel like is the biggest lesson you've taken away in these last, 10 days or so since you finished the race that maybe caught you by surprise? Because you were kind of alluding to something. I'm wondering how you would best describe that maybe.
Yeah. I was beating myself up for the first night. I didn't talk to Brittany. I mean, it's sometimes hard for her and I to get a quiet moment with the kids running around all the time. But like, I was kind of feeling bad about how it went. I'm like, man, I feel like I've kind of wasted an opportunity at Badwater. Like, I
like during it, you were feeling that way?
Well, afterwards, kind
after.
of the days afterwards, I was like, dude, I feel like I kind of wasted that. I had this goal of doing this in the mid to upper 30 hours, and we did it in 44, and not that great of fashion. But I was like, you know what, like, just finishing that race, and I've only been doing this for 4 years, like, weathering the storms that probably would have made most people crack or really question if they wanted to do it. And like, I just found out that like, dude, it's like, unless you literally, physically knock me out of a race, like there's not much that can stop you. And like, that's what I love about the sport. And like the most I've extracted for like just life. Like everybody goes through stresses, and it's just like, as long as you can't avoid it. Like that's the cool thing about a race. It's like we choose to be there. Like we have snacks, like we have drinks. Like it's not that bad, but like, it prepares you for a lot of things in life that come up that aren't chosen, right? If you lose somebody or something bad happens at work or, with your family, and it's just like, you got to get through those lows. Like nobody's going to coast through life without having lows. And these races make me so much more mentally fortified for all of those, kind of stresses that come about in normal life. And it's just like, that's kind of it. Like, I had this picture of a great race and it didn't happen. But I got to the finish line, and I'm almost equally as proud of that. And like having such an amazing team, like it would have been very, very easy for you guys to probably get a little, impatient with things that were happening when I was covering a mile and needing to take a nap in the middle of the night. But like,
the 99
all that's
mile.
Part of the race. All that's part of the sport, man. Yeah. The 99-minute mile. All that's part of the sport. And like, I'm just glad I didn't, give in. Like, I just view it, these are tests, right? They're like these mental tests. Like, yes, you have to be very physically in shape, but like, that's what I love about the long races is that physical, like I like the physical training, of course, and all that comes with it, but like they're mental tests, man. Cause like, during 100, there's going to be some point in that race where you're like questioning if you want to be there. something doesn't go well, and it's like, okay, you're going to let that totally steer you off course, or are you going to overpower this thing and be like, no, I'm stronger than whatever low I'm having, and I can turn that into something positive. So
yeah, but that's what makes it so beautiful. Like, I think that love, whether it is for a passion like ultra running or your romantic relationships or like being a father, like it's not like love is everyone wants that fuzzy feeling. Like I ran the great race. Everything went perfectly. The relationship has no fights ever. We
That's
never
right.
bicker. But like love is also a choice because there are those low moments that will inevitably happen with the passion, with the relationship, with the fatherhood, with whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what is, we all have our thing. Like, you and I have ultra running, like you have your relationships, but like what makes those relationships as special as they are is overcoming the hard times in a lot of ways. And it's the same thing with like Badwater. I hope that, when you look back, you're like, that was special because of the low moments, not because it was this warm, fuzzy feeling the whole time. And I don't think Chris
100%.
Kosman would want to hear you say it was warm and fuzzy the whole time when you finish either.
Yeah, world's toughest, man. But yeah, and I suppose just like carrying it through the rest of the race is so we get to the top of the climb. Like I was climbing consistently well, I think. And then we get to 90, and I think this is the part where a lot of people's races kind of fall off the rails. Is there's a 50K from mile 90, the top of the climb, which is, I would say, mostly runnable if you're physically in decent shape at that point in the race. From 90, which is Darwin, out to Lone Pine, which is the race headquarters and where we had our hotel at mile 122. And that's kind of the final check-in before you start the climb up to Whitney. And 92 was basically a nightmare. Like, I think between literally, I passed out at 72. I remember 90 to 100. I felt like it took like 12 hours. Like it was the longest. Poor MJ, that's where he started pacing me. But he's like, all right, this is never going to end. But I think my system was just so taxed. Like it's one thing, like, we did the heat training. I did the heat training. I was going up to like 220 degrees in my sauna at home. But if you're in there for 20 minutes, there's no sun, there's no wind, there's no mountains you're ascending. So it's just like all the elements and the exposure. And I think, some of those things with passing out and I threw up at mile 99, like my system, I think, was just taxed. And it was like, all right, do we just jack me up with caffeine and try to get through this? Or like, I've never slept during a race ever. So that was like, I remember you're like, what's your sleep strategy? I'm like, there's no strategy, man. We're good. Like, I'm just going to go, So, but I couldn't get, I don't even know what I was doing, maybe 2 miles. And I literally was falling, starting to fall, like, walk sideways and basically fall asleep on myself and had to get in the van for 15 minutes and shut it down. And, so it was a long night to cover that 50K.
I think the sleep jacked everyone up a little bit. I think in retrospect, like if we were back at that crew meeting a few weeks ago, before the race, I think the thing we didn't talk about but should have was figuring out a sleep strategy for you just in case, because we didn't really have a great one. You seemed like super confident. We're going to finish it like this time. And I don't know. I feel like kind of immature on my own end for not like bringing that up a bit more too.
Oh man. Well,
but I was also prepping for Western at the time. So it was like, I'm trying to have empathy for myself and be like, you should have brought that up there. But like we didn't, but like we also didn't bring it up as a crew. We also didn't really talk about it. And I think like in that second night, we probably had, it doesn't take 3 people to like fill a water bottle every like 2 or 3 miles. I think we probably could have done a little bit better job, like, delegating like tasks on that second night better. So if anyone's out there listening to this and you're prepping for your first Badwater, definitely talk about a sleep strategy, not just for the runner, but 100%. For the crew. I think that would have gone a long way for everyone. But yeah, and even for me, like I was so tired that second night because I stayed up the first night. I had stayed up the week before running Western States. I was like I remember when you like puked, Janelle and Anastasia looked to me for help and my head was like pounding. I was just so tired and like probably a bit dehydrated in the desert. And I looked at them and I said, I know I'm technically a dietitian, but I'm just a regular person right now.
Yeah.
I just like could not think straight.
Dude,
And it was just, it comes down to the sleep though.
it does. And like, what a difference. We made it to Lone Pine finally. It's probably 9:30 in the morning. So the sun was up for a couple hours at that point. That's the last big checkpoint. I think the cutoff was noon,
uh,
or maybe 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I should know this, but
I'm not sure.
either way, I think it's actually 2 o'clock in the afternoon because you have 6 hours they give you to do the climb up to Whitney till 8 p.m.
We
So
got there
well
way
ahead,
ahead though. Yeah.
way ahead. But I was just so sleep deprived. I was just like, when we made what is the right call for me to go and shut it down. I was very paranoid about not oversleeping. I was like, let's not, because I was like, the cutoff's at 2 p.m., which, I mean, that climb looking back took me 3.5 hours. But I no later than 12:30 in the afternoon, we got to start going. I was like, there's no way we're going to not get this buckle because we overslept, at mile 122. So, but 3 hours of sleep just on top of my, hotel bed and like my whole race gear. I was like a new human when I woke up, and, you and I did most of that climb together, and like my legs felt strong. We kind of mostly just powered up that. Yeah, I think it took me 3.5 hours to do that last bit. And I wish I had that strength for the whole race, but that was cool. That was just like, it was very clear at that point we were going to finish the race. Everyone was, I think, feeling a little bit better, and like the mood had just turned around because it's like, oh, we're going up, we're that much closer to the finish line. And, I think everybody maybe just had a chance to like rest a little bit and get out of the van for a couple hours at the car. It was cool. We saw Sally McRae going up the climb, and that was where we had we saw Bob, and Harvey was up there at the finish. It was just like good energy, and everybody who was coming down the mountain, in their crew cars was cheering you on. So that was kind of like a high energy part of the course, because that 90 to 122 stretch, I mean, it was dark, it was lonely. There was not a lot going on, and it was just like, man, this is never going to end. But yeah, that was just kind of a cool culmination to like a really tough night too. And I think the crew, everyone's just like morale had picked up. It's just the higher and higher we started to get, and then we were at the trailhead in the trees, and it's like, oh man, this is getting real. And it was just very cool, man. I mean, like, yeah. I usually get kind of emotional at 100-mile finishes, but like this one was like more than normal. And I was trying to wear my glasses during the whole Cosman interaction, because when he was presenting the buckle and the shirt, but he's like, gotta take off your glasses. I'm like, I'm crying right now. So yeah. But yeah, man, it was just like, wow, we did it. I mean, and just in that moment, maybe we didn't fully realize, but like that was a pretty cool thing for 4 strangers plus a runner to get through everything that we weathered. Like I said, it could have been a lot worse with just like, it was tough. I mean, you're out there for a long time, and but we all banded together and got through it. And it was just a nice time to share that moment with you guys. And it's just literally a race where you physically cannot do it without a crew. I mean, just about most of the hundreds out there, you can do it self-supported if you wanted to, because of the 8 stations and drop bags, but like not here. Like, so it's, so much appreciation for you guys and everything that we went through.
Well, I know. Yeah, thank you, man. It was a lot of fun being out there. I want to give a shout out to the whole crew, actually.
Yeah, 100%.
Anastasia for running like the 40 hardest miles of the course with you. And yeah, I was really impressed. She like never complained once about anything.
She did not want to stop pacing. Yeah, she's ready to go. Yeah.
Well, Anastasia, I also appreciate you letting me pace for like 5 miles on, what was that, Monday? No, that was Tuesday night. I needed like an hour break to move my legs in between crewing, because like you can't just go for a run. Like crews at regular races, you can go for a run while you're waiting like 2 hours for your runner to come in, but here you can't, because you got to move the van forward.
Yeah.
So shout out to Anastasia. Janelle was super organized. Like she blew me away with
chief.
She was crew chief for a reason, man. She was super organized and knowledgeable about like literally every fine detail of the event. And MJ, shout out to MJ we almost went through this podcast episode without saying that your nephew ran his first 50K with you. Did we say that specifically?
I was about to say, he's never run more than a marathon. He's never been to an ultra. So like to plug him into Badwater, he's 12 years younger than me. To plug him into Badwater and like to have seen the humanity that he saw between his uncle passing out twice, throwing up, like going through some pretty dark times. Like we've run marathons together, but none of that stuff happens in a marathon.
Yeah.
And he had the patience and just like the wherewithal and man, just the mental toughness to grind through that with me. He did basically the majority of 90 to 122 when we ran the last mile together. It's just so special. I mean, that's a experience. I mean, him and I will get to cherish forever. Next time, hopefully I'll run it more with him, but it was pretty cool. I mean, we're on the drive back from Vegas. I don't know if you heard this in the car, but so like I said, he's 12 years younger than me. He goes, I'm going to do this race by the time I'm your age. So I was like, hell yeah, man.
That's really cool.
It's pretty cool.
That's if you could pass something on from Badwater, that's a pretty good one,
100%.
So I got to ask you, we're like 10 days removed. You got to know this question's coming. All throughout the race, you're like, I'm never doing another. You didn't even say I'm not doing Badwater again. You just said I'm never running like another 100 again.
Retiring.
And in that last section where I was kind of pacing you up Whitney Portal there, which was really cool and fun. And you were passing people. You passed like 10 people in that section. You saw Sally, like you said, the crew vehicles are coming down. Everyone's cheering. There's Bob. You broke a little bit and said like you talked a little bit about maybe doing another one again. So I got to ask, will you do another 100 again? And would you do Badwater again?
Yeah, well, I'm signed up for Run Rabbit Run. I when I was in the midst of Badwater training, I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm gonna get through Badwater, probably gonna drop out of Run Rabbit. But like, I don't have it in me to cancel. So I'll do Run Rabbit 7 weeks from tomorrow. Awesome. I'm actually excited about it. Like, I put a lot of pressure on myself for Badwater, and I think that a lot of that, stress just kind of bubbled up during the race. And but I'm just excited. Got a place there. We're in Steamboat a lot as a family. I'm just excited. I did the tortoises, so it kind of takes the pressure off. I get an additional 6 hours, so like pretty confident I could do that race in 36 hours. And I'm excited to just get on the trails and start doing some of that this summer and prep. So I'll do that, and then Badwater again. I feel like I have to, man. It's not anytime soon. Like, I don't want to put Brittany and everyone through that. Like, I would love to get out there and give it, I don't want to say a better effort because I didn't not try, but like I want a better result, like just to see what I could do. But
because it's in you.
It's in me. And I'm like, oh man, there's all these like, what ifs, and, I can't change obviously the result from this year, but I'm like, that would be cool to like, try to do a little bit better there and just go out and get some redemption. But like I said, I actually wouldn't change anything about how it went. Like, I'm actually glad, like I said, from a lessons learned, from being humble, from learning more about yourself, of, how you don't really know how you're going to react in those moments until they happen to you. Like, you can say like, oh, nothing's going to stop me from, reaching the finish line. It's like, okay, really? Like, oh, here's your test. They see if you're full of shit or not. So, But yeah, I mean, it would be cool to do again. There's a lot of people who do it every year. I mean, Harvey got his 14th straight finish. There's a guy, Danny Westergaard, I met. He's doing 18 straight finishes. I could never imagine going out there every year. It's a huge commitment, not only from the training, but, asking for a crew, to your point, and financially, it wasn't the cheapest race either.
I'll tell you what, my Moab 240 crews told me you can only do this every 2 years because we can't. They were like, we can't emotionally do this every year.
Cooling off period. Yeah. I think it's like 3 to 4 to 5 years for Badwater for me. But I'd like to eventually get back out there, man. I mean, that was looking back on it. I mean, just a special being part of that intimate little group, and but we're campaigning for Anastasia to do it in 2026. So maybe we'll be crewing and pacing her.
She's run like 40 hundreds, and she's paced and crewed Badwater twice. She'll probably get in on her first shot.
She'll crush it. Yeah.
Because of how the I don't want to call it lottery spots, application spots are, because of how they're divided. Correct me if I'm wrong, like 2/3 of the slots go to new runners.
That's right.
So that more people have an opportunity. So it's probably actually harder to get in once you've done it. I'm not sure though.
Yeah. Well, you gotta, we were talking about it, like, Harvey's gonna get a slot, right? He's got a
Mhm.
streak going. I'm sure, Danny would get a slot. He's got his streak going. I'm sure some people who've kind of done it consecutively are gonna get in. So I don't think it's probably not totally 33 slots. It's probably, 20
Mhm.
something or whatever. But when all is said and done, but yeah, I mean, props to the people who can go out there and go, weather those elements every year. But there's, I
Mhm.
only do one or two of these a year, as we were talking about before the show. So there's
Mhm.
other races I do want to do, and probably focus on those for a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I know we're coming up on time. If you don't mind, I have a few quick questions
Yeah,
for you.
let's go.
But before we finish up, first, I do want to commend you. Um, uh, how do I put this? You're a tough motherfucker, dude. For really for never quitting when times get tough. Got tough at Badwater. Firsthand seeing some of those lows. It's a bit
Yeah,
overwhelming when you're. Um, I don't want to say it's more overwhelming as a crew than it is to be the runner, because when
yeah,
you're the runner, if you know in your heart you're going to make it through no matter what, then you
yeah,
know. But if you're the crew member
yeah.
watching,
You guys are
sometimes
know
you're like,
that.
what
Yeah,
is going through his head,
right.
actually? So if that's there were a few moments where it was pretty overwhelming, and it just watching you continue to go through those lows and get up and keep fighting was really
Yeah,
inspiring. And I'm sure you're aware, but there is a ripple effect. Anastasia is going to be you actually get to see the ripple effect firsthand. Anastasia is probably going to be applying next year.
yeah,
MJ said he wants to do it again. You want to do it again. Me and
yeah.
Janelle are. I don't know if we're going to do it. But at least I will say it was an experience that both of us will remember forever. I'm sure she would
100%.
agree with that statement. So that's really cool. Just that ripple effect. But also, I think Janelle described you out there as the most genuine and humble person that she's met, and the most. She described you as somebody whose actions speak louder than his words, and the more that we talk and the more I get to know you, the more I feel like that is an accurate representation of who you are. So just want to commend you for those things.
That
Yeah.
means everything. I appreciate it.
So I do have a few. I had so many questions for you coming into this. Obviously, I could not get to them all, so maybe that means
Yeah,
we'll have to do this again. But
sure.
there's one question I like to ask a lot of people because it's a topic that I love. Is how do you define greatness?
Hmm. I think what I've learned since coming into the sport and since kind of doing this whole, call it a self improvement journey that I've done over the last 5 years, it's just finding out what your purpose is, your passion, and then using that in a way where you can positively influence others. Like we kind of alluded to that, how I do that, like with the work,
Hmm.
I like to positively influence my team. With my kids, I want to set the right example.
Hmm.
I want them to see me doing hard things. I want them to see dad struggling and still not giving up, etc. So it's just, yeah, whatever you're passionate about,
Hmm.
using that in a way, not just keeping it to yourself. Like if I just got in really good shape and didn't kind of share my journey with anybody, I don't think people probably just like, oh, that guy just likes to run. But like, you don't really understand like where I started and where I came from, a lot of the pain and dark times I've had in my life, and kind
Hmm.
of where I've gotten to today. So I think it is, and I'm kind of a man of few words, as you mentioned. Like I don't often talk about a lot of these things, but I've tried to get myself out of that to be like, no, there is a story for me to tell here.
Hmm.
So I think that can help people, but it's just, yeah, you got to be a little intentional about letting people in and being a little bit vulnerable with that story. And because the more you kind of let people know that, the more you find out that everybody's got something they're dealing with. And if I can positively influence one person outside of my kids and whatnot, I
Hmm.
mean that's great.
That's cool. You'll appreciate this. I met Pam Reed a few years ago, and she had almost the
Oh
same
yeah.
answer when I met her. And I asked her that question at mile 3 of Zion 100. I was like, getting
Like, why are
deep
you
real
telling me
early.
right now? Yeah.
Yeah, right. Why?
You're
Why you?
jumping right into the deep stuff. This is a mile 70 conversation. Yeah.
I love the podcast, The School of Greatness. So I've stolen that question from
Oh
Lewis
yeah.
Howes, who asked
Yep.
his
He's
guest
great.
that. It's just a topic that I've thought about a lot over the course of my ultra running career. So I like to ask other people. Just spread the joy for we'll call it the semantics. I
100%.
love semantics. I think they're the spice of life. I love that words can have multiple meanings, and things like greatness and
Yeah.
like toughness. And I mean, there's just um, so many traits out there that people can come up with their own definitions for. And that's why I like to hear how everyone else describes them for themselves. The other word I'm interested in hearing you talk a little bit more about is toughness. What does it mean
Yeah.
to you? How do you define it? How can other people become tougher individuals? Because I feel like that is, uh, if I had to guess, it would be one of your like
Mhm.
primary values in life.
Yeah. I mean, I look at it as a resilience. It's not something I don't think you're inherently necessarily, born with, right? It's something that you have to, just like anything, practice. Like I love training every day and
Mhm.
instilling that confidence in myself that like every day I've done something hard and I do it in the morning. So it's like, okay, I've started my day in a positive direction. I've
Mhm.
overcome some type of obstacle. And those little wins, waking up when your alarm goes off, putting the right things in your body, going on a run, doing something positive, bringing a good mindset, like all that compounds over time. Like I
Mhm.
mentioned, started doing ultra in 2021, just every day, just work it. And then it's like, how is that guy getting in Badwater in 2025? So it's like, but it's also true of little losses, right? Because like, okay, test number one is when the alarm goes off. Like if you don't get up, then you're in the negatives. You know what I mean? And it's just like, oh, blowing off your workout. And it's like all that stuff compounds to where like when you are at mile 90
Mhm.
and you're struggling and things aren't going well, those losses would be like, hey, well, maybe I'm not as prepared for this as I want to be because, like, I didn't train quite as hard as I wanted to. And, like, I didn't take this as seriously as I should have. But, like, I had it in the back of my mind. It's like, yeah, this isn't going great today. But, like, I didn't miss a single day of training. I did all the work that I needed to do to, even at this low point, I know I can keep moving forward because my body will do it. It's
Mhm.
it's not at the pace I want it to be, but like, I built in that resilience. So it's just like, to me, that's toughness. It's just building in that with those wins comes the confidence that you have, the competence to do it. It's that like confidence, competence loop you hear people talking about. It's like you have
Mhm.
to build the momentum and like that confidence in yourself of I can do things that are hard because I've proven it to myself every day for the last
Yeah.
6 months or the last 5 years or whatever it is.
Right.
Um, that's what
I
helps you get through the tough times.
I love my favorite Goggins concept is the cookie jar, where
Yeah.
you just need to stack those cookies. The hardest
Yeah.
cookie though to stack is the first cookie.
That's
That's
right.
like
Yeah.
really, I think a lot of mental health issues are really I love how the stigma is starting to disappear today, but I think especially with young people, the biggest reason that they have like mental health, we'll call it crises or issues, because as
Mhm.
somebody, I had my first like depression episode in like high school. And I think the reason that happened for me and a lot of other people is like, you just don't have any cookies. What have you done at 14
Mhm.
to really
That's
look at
right.
yourself in the mirror and be like, oh, well, like I still have character and confidence in myself because I've done X, Y, or Z. It's like you
That's
haven't
right.
done anything. It's like, what do
Yeah.
you really have to lean on? But, as
Yeah.
adults, all of us have overcome something,
For
which is
sure.
always a good like starting
Mhm.
point. Okay. Last thing, where can, I could talk to you forever, man.
Yeah.
If you can't tell, but uh, where can people find you on social if they want to follow
Yeah.
your journey? What is next for you, and what words, what last words do you have for anyone who's listening to this?
Yeah, probably running wise, social. It's Instagram. It's Manimbo runs far. My last name's Manimbo. That's where I'll put up all my quote unquote content. As far as what's next, yeah, Run Rabbit Run in Steamboat in September. I'll be pacing. I'll be out in Leadville. I'm going to be pacing JVB, so might see you on the course. But
Hey,
so that'll be cool. He wants to do Hope Pass on Saturday, so we'll see where my trail legs are at. But as far as parting words, just I mean, like I said, on the surface, guy like me, who wasn't even running before 2020 to do Badwater in 2025. It's just like, you know, if that doesn't, you know, kind of inspire you that it's possible to do anything you kind of set your mind to. I know it sounds very cheesy and cliche, but like I was a guy who couldn't run a mile outside in 2020 and just like never gave up and just realized that this was my new normal. This is the life I wanted to live. I wanted to be healthier. I wanted to test the boundaries. And like you truly can do whatever you want to do. You got to be willing to work. Like I said, wake up 3 o'clock in the morning. I train every day. Not that, you know, you have to run Badwater, but like, it's just, I mean, you could translate that into anything that you want to get better at in life. It's just like, you know, I love Joe Rogan has this saying of like, what is it? Building a mountain like a layer of paint at a time. It's just, you know, day after day, you know, kind of adding and you know, moving in that positive direction. So, I mean, that's what it's all about. That's what the sport of ultra is all about, moving in the positive direction. Like you said, I never stopped. Like you're not going to get to the finish line by, you know, sitting down and feeling bad. Like you just, even if you're walking, crawling, yeah, you'll get there eventually if you're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being on the pod, man. It was really awesome having you. And there were so many parts of this conversation that were a lot of fun to chat with you about.
No, this was fun. And, you know, again, can't thank you enough for taking me up on my offer to be part of the crew. I'm so glad I picked you. I mean, you kept me, I learned a lot from you just with respect to nutrition and doing things right. I mean, that was probably the one thing we did do well during the race as far as we were no nutrition problems or hydration. But, yeah, so really thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to come on here and talk a little bit about the story. And, yeah, man, looking forward to what's next.
Yeah, I'm sure that we'll have another adventure together.
100%.
But thanks for being on, man.
All right, brother. We'll talk soon.
All right. Danny Manimbo, there you have it, folks. Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for taking the time to listen to today's episode of the Journey Running Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please do make sure to like, rate, and subscribe to the show. It really does go a long way for me over here. As always, if you are looking for a running coach or a registered dietitian, you can reach out to me at journeyruncoaching.com and submit a form on my website there. Alternatively, you can email me directly at journeyrunningllc@gmail.com. At Journey Running, the goal is to help athletes run farther, fuel smarter, and develop character. With that said, thank you all once again for taking the time to listen to today's episode, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.